Jinwoo was a dedicated streamer who was deeply invested in a notoriously difficult game. He spent 11 years studying the game's tests tower in order to conquer it, as it was said that if anyone could beat it, the game would become reality. As Jinwoo struggled to make ends meet with his streaming income, he began to consider other job options. However, the world was thrown into chaos when the tests tower suddenly appeared in real life. A message appeared for all humanity, stating that the first floor of the tower must be cleared within 90 days, or everyone would die. Jinwoo knew what he had to do: level up. His first task was to find the mangrove of greed, a tree whose fruits grant extra stat points to those who eat them. However, the tree only bears 4 fruits, and there were many people waiting to claim them, including a man named Lee Jong-soo, who had a history of exploiting other streamers. Jinwoo made it clear that things had changed, and while they were fighting, others claimed the fruits. Jinwoo's true objective was never the fruits, it was to find a more valuable item, and the only way to obtain it was by defeating the monster guarding it. Though many had died trying, Jinwoo convinced Lee Jong-soo to stay and attack the monster together. But when the moment came to strike, Jinwoo was betrayed. However, this was exactly what Jinwoo had planned, as the tree always attacks the person farthest away. With the distraction, Jinwoo was able to defeat the monster and obtain the tree orb, a powerful object that increased his stat points by 12, without the need for leveling up. He became the strongest level 1 player by being the first to defeat the mangrove of greed. He could have entered the Hall of Fame, but instead, he chose to keep his identity hidden to avoid any problems. When the achievement appeared, many thought it was just luck, but upon watching the video, they were amazed at his skill. Additionally, Jinwoo activated anonymous mode so that no one could see his face or name. Despite receiving numerous offers from corporations for his streaming knowledge, Jinwoo refused to sell it. After the tests tower appeared in the real world, relics from the game became highly valuable, such as the Eastland Great Map, which provided all the necessary information to reach the 10th floor. Many were fighting for it, but the only important players were an old man who could burn his enemies alive and a girl who could summon the Tutankhamun statue. Everyone was scared to face these powerful enemies, but Jinwoo didn't even bother to dodge them. She tried to intimidate him by summoning more statues, but for Jinwoo, it was nothing. He could easily take her out of combat without her even noticing. However, he wanted her to understand the significant difference in their abilities, so he demonstrated to her a different way to use the artifacts. Now that she was trembling with fear, he asked her to hand over Tutankhamun's mask. With her defeated, the path to the chamber containing the most valuable treasures was cleared. The old man could not enter the chamber because of a barrier, but Jinwoo tells him that the only way to get in is by forming an alliance. After all, he was not interested in the East map. His only goal was to weaken the barrier by using his fire magic constantly. He must keep using his magic until everything was gathered. Seeing that he had no other choice, the old man decided to trust Jinwoo. All the relics were still inside, but one sword was missing. Jinwoo knew exactly who had taken it, and he was sure of who was responsible for the barrier. However, the sword was not the replica he was looking for. It was just a second-class artifact to him. He was there only for 3 specific artifacts, relics that fit perfectly together and once combined, would give the user an SS rank ability, the Eye of Truth, which allows to know who is lying and see other state windows. As a reward for combining 3 rank B relics and creating a rank S or superior, he obtained the fusion ability that allowed him to copy and store many abilities in the world, and even fuse them to create stronger ones. He already had the best ability in the game. Now he had to test it out. The best way to do so was against the powerful old man waiting for him outside. The only way to copy his fire powers was to make him reveal his true feelings he had been hiding behind a mask. In other words, he had to make him angry. So the first thing he did was telling him that he never needed his fire powers to open the door, that it was all a trick to make him waste his mana. He then burned the East map before his eyes. Jinwoo already knew the entire tower, so the most important thing was that the conditions were met. The old man was angry and ready to burn him alive, but Jinwoo's new flames were much stronger. Despite everything that Jinwoo had done to him, the old man still wanted to ally with him. That's why, along with the girl, he gets them both under his service. The video of what happened in the museum quickly aired on TV, and everyone wondered who that guy was. and how he was so powerful. After the video, the government announced that they had created a department specifically to handle the situation, with Han Sangjing as the leader. He appeared on screen recruiting new people, specifically those who could find the person in the video. A blank check was offered as a reward, with the government willing to pay any amount in exchange for their service. However, Jinwoo maintains his stance and is not willing to sell his information. The waiting period had ended. Players were now able to enter the tower and clear the first floor. Two new functions were also introduced: the ability to upload videos and earn 100 coins for every 10,000 views, and the ability to stream, but the latter could only be used when fighting against a boss to progress to the next phase. Players caught using it inappropriately would be punished severely. Everyone rushed into the tower to clear the first floor as quickly as possible. But Jinwoo had other plans. He knew of a maze that no one else did. However, what he didn't plan for was that these two people would join him in his adventure. They had been following him for a while, and at first, they were unsure about entering the maze, but they thought that if a level 1 player wasn't scared to enter, it shouldn't be too difficult to clear. They couldn't have been more wrong. It didn't take long before one of them was already dead. The only one worth remembering was the leader, Park Hana, as she had a very useful ability called Communion, which allows the user to gain the trust of others easily. In order to gain this ability, Jinwoo had to spend at least 240 hours with her. However, after that time, no one could be around them. Despite the complaints from the others about him hiding information, Jinwoo didn't let them get to him. He didn't ask them to follow him. After all, the dangerous thing about that maze wasn't just its changing structure, but also the fearsome Minotaur living there. Everyone was scared, but the Minotaur was one of the main reasons why Jinwoo entered the maze. Because if you manage to avoid one of its attacks, you gain a hidden skill called Rupture, which reduces the strength difference between its user and the most powerful enemy. Plus, every attack dodged levels up that ability. The others were amazed at how Jinwoo was dealing with the beast, as if it was just a toy. Their plan was to gain his trust and then murder him once they had gotten all the rewards, but they didn't know that the person they wanted to kill was a monster. With their plan foiled, they tried to find a way out, but once you are in the maze, there is no other way to escape until you complete it. Going around with no clear destination was very dangerous, so they had no choice but to beg Jinwoo to let them join him. In exchange, they had to be in the maze for 30 days. With their newfound wealth, Jinwoo turned around, went to the store, and bought some objects that at first glance seemed like trash. But once he fused them, he obtained a rank S artifact that increases his luck for 10 minutes. Which was enough time for Jinwoo to use a booster scroll on his dagger. These scrolls are known for their low success rate, but when your luck is at its maximum, the probability goes to 100%. This is how Jinwoo became the first one to create an object plus 10 in the whole world. 10 days had passed since they entered the maze, and the two of them were the only survivors of the group. They were tired, surviving on a small bonfire, sleeping on moss beds, and eating only mushrooms and more moss. The maze constantly changed, and the Minotaur would visit them from time to time. At this rate, they would die. They didn't trust Jinwoo and thought that once it was all over, he would get rid of them. So, they decided to kill him. Park Hana had been cheating the whole time. She had been using the streaming function to communicate with people outside and told them to inform her brother of what was happening, so he could help her. However, it would take up to 3 weeks for him to reach them. The Minotaur could find them because of Jinwoo, who attracted it with moths. If they killed him, the Minotaur wouldn't return, and they could hide until her brother rescued them. The problem was how to kill him. If they tried to kill him while he was sleeping, his reflexes would probably wake him up, so they decided to poison him. Luckily, her brother gave her a perfect poison for that. What they didn't expect was that Jinwoo knew what they were planning, so he switched their plates. He also knew that they were streaming, and he reported them. Everyone who was watching was suspended for a month, and Park Hana was punished with a harsh penalty. By this time, Jinwoo had fulfilled all the conditions. The girl was useless to him, so when the Minotaur came back, he didn't try to protect her. She got mad and started threatening him, saying that her brother was with the Bodies Guild, and he wouldn't forgive him. But Jinwoo showed her his true strength. A strength that not even all the guilds combined could ever match. The Minotaur finally used its strongest ability, Berserk, which considerably raised all its stats and even its intelligence. Jinwoo was waiting for this moment for a while now, because when the difficulty raises, it also raises the points he gets every time he dodges an attack. Jinwoo managed to survive the whole 5 minutes the effect lasts, so he got a lot of points, and the Minotaur gets paralyzed as a consequence of using the Berserk mode. This paralysis lasts for a whole day. That's enough time for Jinwoo to rest and get his health back up for the next round. His ability was on level 57, but his final goal was to raise it to level 100 during the next 20 days. Finally, the nightmare was over. Jinwoo reached his longed-for level 100 and finally killed the Minotaur. Nevertheless, this was not enough reason to leave her alive, as she had tried to kill him more than once. He asked her for a reason to spare her life and join his new company. She wasn't interested in joining his company, but she definitely didn't want to die. She offered many things that were useless to Jinwoo, but the only thing he found interesting, and the reason he let her live, is that she offered Braham's ring, one of the best items you can find on the first floor. He also implanted her face with a soul's stigma, so she couldn't betray him, a contract that makes the other person obey every order given. For surviving the maze, they received 5,000 coins each, but Jinwoo took all of Park Hana's coins and said goodbye, giving her only 3 days to deliver him the ring. They were together for a month inside that maze, and he needed to catch up with everything that happened in the real world. To do that, he reconnected with his old video game friends, the big man Timon Lee and the nuclear punch woman Yu Yanhua. He knew that they had powerful abilities like the Lord of the Perfect Machine, which is perfect for high-scale battles, and the Taekwondo ability, which is perfect for tanks and explosive strikes. To copy these abilities, the only condition was that they reach the 20th floor. Lately, everyone who knew him had been kind to him, but with a hidden motive. However, with them, he felt comfortable and found out about everything that had happened during that month. The most important guild's movement in the world and the appearance of an evil group called MANHWA. The government also implemented an ability test, which measures the power of an awakened player. Players with F rank or less can't get to the 2nd floor, but those with a higher rank will be compensated with high ranks and big-time money. The day of the ability test arrived and Park Han appeared. Her arrogant brother and a high-ranking member of the Raven Guild were determined to show off their power and assert dominance over others, but they had unknowingly crossed the wrong person. Park Hana's brother wanted to put Jinwoo in his place, but Jinwoo had plans of his own to copy his ability. Unfortunately, the only way to do that was to provoke his bad temper. Jinwoo starts by breaking his finger and then humiliates him when he tries to attack. Kim steps in and stops the altercation, apologizing for his behavior, but Jinwoo knew that he was still useful. Park Hana had confided in Jinwoo that her brother was illegally supplying Korean ginseng to China. Kim was shocked by this revelation, but his expression grew even more grim when Jinwoo revealed that he knew how to treat the ginseng's side effects. Kim asked Jinwoo to stop talking and summoned a barrier to block out any eavesdroppers. Jinwoo offered to trade the solution to his problem in exchange for 10 of his most profitable monopolized mazes. To prove his credibility, Jinwoo shared the missing ingredient needed to treat the side effects, information that matched the guild's own investigation. Kim was hesitant, but ultimately decided to trust Jinwoo this one time, warning him that if this was a trick, he would not let it slide. Jinwoo assured him that he was not trying to deceive him and that the offer was genuine. Jinwoo intervened to prevent a fight between his friends, and he managed to calm the situation, and Mr. Kim punched Park Heejin to stop his behavior. As a result, his anger reached its peak, and the conditions were met to copy one of his abilities, shallow breathing. To test his strength, Jinwoo went straight to the biggest crystal, which the person in charge of the test said had never been moved before by a normal person. To everyone's surprise, Jinwoo broke it in 2 pieces. The person in charge congratulated Jinwoo on becoming rank S, but before informing his superiors, Jinwoo requested to postpone his calcification for a week, so he would temporarily be ranked as F. The person in charge couldn't refuse due to Jinwoo's threat. As Jinwoo was leaving, he ran into Park Hana, who had come to fulfill her promise. She expected him to remove her mark, but Jinwoo had other plans. Taking advantage of his rank F, he enrolled as a gatekeeper for the expedition maze called the Depraved Room. Before embarking on this adventure, Jinwoo received a reward for clearing the tower, an ability called Cold Heart and another with a monopolistic name, which activated when receiving all the final rewards without sharing with anyone. If he fulfilled that condition, he would receive the best possible rewards from random chests. Among the attack team, Jinwoo noticed the presence of the Ozian Guild, an elite group from Europe. Their presence seemed strange to him, so he used his ability to become friends with a girl who was Laurentina's young daughter and a universal player type that used sacred power. She stood out for her attack, defense, and even had a healing ability from the Holy Amsterdam. Teresa Laurentina. It was very weird for someone with such power to be there instead of being cleaning the third floor. That's why Jinwoo peeked with his eye of truth and finds out that the girl was looking for a job, which explains everything. For Jinwoo, this was a perfect opportunity. The Star Blessing was considered the best unique ability among the Sacred Knights, and now he had the opportunity to take it. The problem is that in order to obtain it is to saving her from a life or death situation, a situation very difficult to create, taking into account that she is one of the best 100 players in the world. At that moment the whole team were relaxed. They already cleared the first part of that maze, and nothing would happen as long as they didn't bother the guards. And yes, just as you are guessing right now, someone had the great idea to wake them up. To face them with their current strength was almost a suicide, but the captain wasn't willing to give up being this, his first mission as captain. So confident about Santa Teresa's power, they charged against their enemies and two of their less powerful players died. Luckily Santa Teresa herself was there to help them out. Some enemies managed to get through all the players and arrived where the gatekeepers were. They were severely injured, but Jinwoo managed to arrive in time to save this mister. The thing is that this Santa Teresa misunderstands the whole situation, and she thinks that Jinwoo is there to kill that man. But he is also guilty of waking up the guardian. And that's how the first part of this manhwa ends. Well guys, if you like this video and want a part 2, comment below with the word level. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, give a like, and the most important thing is to leave a comment. That's all for today. See you in the next video.